It's time for 41 is the Mic, a weekly Chiefs podcast with Nick Jacobs of KSHB 41 and Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mic starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of 41 is the Mic. Wish it was a victory edition. Should have been a victory edition, but recapping Chiefs 30 falling to the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-28. I am Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest alongside sleeping enthusiast Nick Jacobs from KSHB 41. Nick, I think you are ready to get to bed after this one.
Yeah, no, once this one's over and it's up on, been sent to the internet, yeah, I'm definitely going to play that game. I hope I get a high score of 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I think this is one that a lot of Chiefs fans are going to hit the pillow early, and I hope they don't toss and turn too much, and that when you're listening to this, you're well rested. But probably not a great flight back to Kansas City for the Chiefs after that one, after giving away a game in which they led 14-0. Nick had the lead late within the last 2 minutes of the game. Give up a touchdown when the opposing quarterback was lying on the ground at one point during the play. I mean, that's a tough way to lose a game.
Yeah, if there's one thing I hope they take away from this, and given that they've been on the championship run they have for quite some time, it shouldn't have needed to been taught to them. But if this game doesn't force them to find their killer instinct, then I don't know what will. When you're up 14-0 like that, you can't let those opportunities pass you by to really put your cleat on their throat. And they had that opportunity when they were up 14-0, when Lawrence wanted to give the ball away on an interception, was really rattled at that point. They had that opportunity, and then after he scrambled once or twice there, they really had that opportunity to try to figure out a way to get the ball back and go up 21-0 and really kind of put the Jaguars in doubt and you know, kind of keep them uneven as they were there early on in that football game. And I think the results would have been a lot different. But, I mean, enough of these guys have been in the pressure cooker situations to where you would have thought you have seen a little bit different focus or resiliency at different points tonight.
Yeah, the Chiefs were up 14-7, and there was a chance there, Nick, because when they took that 14-7 lead, there was a chance that they could very well have, the next time that the Jaguars got the football back, did it 28-7, because they had a chance to finish out the first half with the football, start the second half with the football. Instead, both those drives were 3-and-outs. They're two worst drives of the game, and with their possession of the Jaguars in the beginning of the second half, scored a touchdown to tie it up. And that changed the ball game. And obviously the pick six changed the ball game significantly. But you look at this box score, Nick, and the Chiefs significantly outgained the Jaguars. They won the turnover battle. I mean, you look at everything up and down the scorecard, and you say the Chiefs should have won this game. So the big question is, how and why did the Chiefs lose this game?
Well, I mean, obviously the first thing that everybody's going to be talking about, but it's going to be fact, is the 13 penalties. The biggest thing that the Chiefs had going against them, or they allowed to go against themselves, is one, whenever they would start to make some movement on offense, and then they'd have some penalty, whether it's Hollywood Brown punching or doing the open hand, push to the guy's helmet, or Juwan having a legal formation, or Kingsley Suamataia having the hold, or something along those lines. Each time that derailed them, and unless they had an explosive play to recoup what had happened and erase the fact that put them behind the sticks, they always struggled on those drives otherwise to be able to get in scoring position and effectively do what they needed to. And when you're going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, like we talked about on here, they're a disciplined zone coverage football team. And, I mean, they're a little predictable in what they're going to do on some of their blitzing, or when they're willing to show it, or how they're going to show it. But those guys are going to be in the right spot. And the most dangerous guy on the field was always going to be Lloyd, the linebacker, just how disciplined he is. He's in a contract year, and like the guy is kind of the heart and soul of that defense more than he gets credit for. And like the Jaguars weren't going to come in with the most elite pass rush possible. So, like, from an offensive line perspective, you should be able to hold your own against them and give Patrick all the time he needs. but there was a lot of times where I really was hoping the Chiefs run blocking would be able to lean on the Jaguars at various points to really kind of take some pressure off Mahomes and the receivers at times, especially when they got inside the red zone and got inside the 10. But I mean, when they're doing the motion, the orbit motion, and the turnaround, and then Mahomes is play faking in 3 different spots and everything, that tells me you don't believe in your power run game. That tells me that you don't think you're capable of it. You got to misdirect and ooh and ah to be able to try to be able to effectively run the football. So, I mean, that's a problem in itself. So this is going to continue to keep popping up when that happens. And then the other thing that happened for the most part is the Chiefs pass rush for the most part was ineffective again, because you take a look at Chris Jones. Chris Jones is like just beating double team after double team while he's getting held and splitting the difference. But nobody else on that line is able to get to the quarterback in their one-on-one matchups. Nobody's winning their one-on-one matchups, so that, like, Chris is taking on 2 people most plays. Help the guy out, man. So it just, I don't know. I mean, it's frustrating. And I feel like at this point sometimes, I know George Karlaftis has the most hurries and everything, and that's great. But unless it's getting the quarterback to get rid of the ball quickly and being effective, it's not really doing anything. And then Leo Chanel, he's having to become more of a pass rusher because they just don't have a lot of answers on that defensive line.
Yeah, and I was a little bit surprised, Nick, tonight that the Steve Spagnuolo did not blitz Trevor Lawrence as much as they have quarterbacks the last few weeks. And and that surprised me because Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback that's easy to rattle. The few times that they did blitz him, they had some success. I know they forced an interception and a turnover in one of those blitzes, and it wasn't terrible against the blitz. But as successful as the Chiefs have been, I was just really surprised that they dialed it back as much. What did you see as far as why that the Chiefs maybe countered that way and didn't blitz Lawrence as much tonight?
I think a piece of the puzzle has to do with ETN, and this may make sense, may not, but I think when the Chiefs are really wanting to be effective at slowing down the run game at the first and second level, I think there's certain things Steve Spagnuolo likes to be under control on with run fits more than if you blitz into it and maybe you get a little bit more reckless and they guess a certain way on it. And then also what the Jaguars are doing for most of the game, especially in the first half, is Lawrence was trying to get a read on what they were doing and go from either play 1 or play 2. And the Chiefs were going to make sure they didn't give anything away for him and kind of keep that doubt in his head. And, I mean, so many times that play clock was going down to, 2 or 1, and they'd have some delayed games. Some delayed games weren't called. And I just think Steve and them were just trying to keep kind of some of the disguise overall. And because of it, sometimes it burned them a little bit whenever they didn't spy. And then some other times, they dropped into zone, but they probably necessarily didn't need to. Because coming into this game, the keys to their offense was, could Travis Hunter come up with just an incredible play? And he's honestly their most explosive receiver when he's out there. He's their most dynamic playmaker in terms of the receiving group. And then Travis Etienne is their most explosive running back. So that when you get a heavy dose of those guys, that's the winning recipe for what the Jaguars do. And now the Jaguars are going to try to form that more and more as the weeks go on and the games go on. And then, we'll see what Brian Thomas does, because he's kind of disappeared up until he had a couple clutch catches a night that Trevor Lawrence was able to throw to him. And, Washington, they're still trying to figure out his role. But, I still think there's more that the Jaguars are going to need long-term to surround Lawrence with to consistently win against some other AFC and NFC teams. But it'll be interesting to see from tonight what the Jaguars do in the weeks ahead, and what confidence does this give them? What resiliency does this give them of what Liam Cohen is trying to build right now in Jacksonville?
One thing what you mentioned earlier too, and I kind of want to put a bow on with the penalties, but also even just Chris Jones's play. I know there's been a lot of criticism that I've seen already, and I've gone back and watched it a dozen times. The final play on that touchdown drive where Trevor Lawrence gets up off the ground and scrambles for the touchdown, and there's some questions about Chris. And honestly, it takes me back to the Chargers game where Chris got busted for overplaying and kind of, abandoning his edge in that situation and allowing Phillip Rivers, allowing Justin Herbert to scramble for the first down. This was a case where Chris did kind of what he was supposed to do. I mean, he got stuffed and he stayed in the middle to keep Trevor Lawrence from having any place to go up the middle and scramble like he had been all night long. I mean, he kind of did his assignment there. I mean, there's sometimes you just can't, there's nothing you can do. And wrapping up the penalties, one thing for you to, say that, hey, you got 30 yards in special teams penalties, not even talking about Harrison Butker yet, but just on the 3 returns that got wiped out. Okay, 3 penalties, 30 yards. That only tells half the story because you also wiped out 78 yards in field position. And be honest, I mean, none of those 3 penalties were key to the play. I mean, Brashard Smith had those gains. He had those busted. Those penalties were not what freed him. And that's what's, I think, frustrating. And I don't know. I mean, I have a little bit of a tinfoil hat theory, Nick, that maybe Jacksonville saw something on tape that either they felt like that they could take advantage of, or they had notified the officials to be on the lookout for, because you don't normally get such a close eye on special teams like that unless the officials either know that they're looking for something or a team knows that they can kind of bait you into penalties. Am I crazy?
Anything's possible. I don't know. It was a wacky night out there from both the call up in the booth to some of the penalties that were either missed or some that were called.
It was an erratic night across the board for everybody, Nick. Teams, officials, broadcasters alike, maybe even podcasters. On the offensive side, I mean, the Chiefs offensively, to me, Nick, they played well enough to win this game. I mean, you put up 476 yards of offense. I think most of the time you're going to win a football game, especially when you score 28 points with it. Now, if you're the Chiefs, you wish you had 35 because you were 2 yards away from scoring 35 points and instead giving 7 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars on that pick 6. But, I mean, I can't, other than like you talked about, that the Chiefs' run game doesn't really have an identity at this point. But the offense did enough to win this game.
And that I hate to say it sometimes, that could be the motto of the season. So far through 5 games, the defense did enough for the team to win. The offense did enough for the team to win. But, it's not one side of the ball or the other that should be winning the games. It's a collective effort. So where the Chiefs are having trouble no matter what week it is last week against the Ravens, they were inside the 15 4 times and were able to score 4 different touchdowns. But it was through passing. So they were able to pass for 4 different touchdowns inside the 15 through some creative play calling and things of that nature. What I want to continually reemphasize, I did last week, is that once you get inside the 20, there's a lot of things you need to go right in route combinations to be able to throw for a touchdown. There's a lot of things you need to go right in terms of misdirection if you're going to do that type of stuff, or if you're going to do screen passes. There's tight quarters down there, and there's just you're having to pick on certain people to get them to go this way, and you're attacking the opposite way to misdirect them in some way, shape, or form. And it would do a lot of motions and do this, and the windows are tight to make the throw, and there's a lot of things that have to go right for that to happen. The simplest way that you take a lot of those factors out there is if you're able to lean on people and be able to drive them off the ball, and your running back is able to run some people over, and especially inside the 10. You take a lot of guesswork out of there if you're able to run effectively inside the 10. The Chiefs were able to do that in some of their more effective offenses early on in that 2018, 2019 range, especially 2018 with Kareem. And they were able to do that, and they just were at will, relentless, and effective in that front. So for part of the Chiefs' mission here in my book is, how do you get a more effective run game inside the 10? that doesn't have to finesse, doesn't have to razzle dazzle, doesn't have to misdirect? How do you get a more effective run game that can lean on some people and push into the end zone to where you don't even have to take the chance that you throw into the heart of a defense over the middle, and their best player, Lloyd, is baiting Mahomes on that throw and drops back and he's watching his eyes and he's expecting him to, he understands what the quarterback's going to be reading, how their defense is going to go and where the ball is going to be funneled to based on what he's doing. And he is just waiting and leaving that open, and then he's going to break on that football, which is what he did. So, like I'm saying, all that collectively it's a mistake, obviously, from Mahomes, and you can tell he's beating himself up in the presser from it and everything. But in the grander scheme of it, like, it's just the margins are a lot different this year for the Chiefs in terms of what they can do air-wise. In the past, when you had Travis Kelce in his prime or you had Tyreek Hill in his prime, you could have a penalty and then one of them would get an explosive play over 20 yards and it would erase whatever happened. Or, it could be third and whatever, and they were going to get the first down back in the day. Like, you just don't have guys right now that have fully replaced that. Worthy had the ankle thing and didn't seem like he was the same as what he would have been before. I'm curious to look at the tape and see how they were using Thornton at times. And, Travis Kelce is just not who he was a handful of years ago. And that's to be expected because, father time catches up with everybody. So right now, Worthy and Brashard Smith are your most explosive weapons you have. When Rashee Rice comes back, you add that to the puzzle, but then you've got to figure out how to put all these together so you can collectively be effective, especially when you have an offensive line that is giving you plenty of time to make plays.
And the Chiefs did get 2 big run plays tonight, which is something that they have not been getting all of this year. Pacheco had a 16-yard run. Kareem Hunt had a 33-yard run. Those were nice, but those are 2 carries for 49 yards. The rest of the game, those guys, 12 carries, 36 yards. I mean, that's what generally these guys have been doing this year. I mean, 3 yards a carry. This has not been a high-octane Chiefs run game. And once again, we're seeing flashes of getting Brashard Smith involved, but only from a pass-catching standpoint. He did have a pitch tonight that he took for 4 yards. I mean, I continue to understand why the Chiefs are hesitant to get Brashard Smith fully involved in the run game because he's still a work in progress as a developmental player as a running back. But I'm just not sure if the Chiefs can wait any longer, Nick. I mean, they need some explosion and some dynamic plays out of the backfield. And I just don't know that Pacheco or Hunt can deliver them at this point.
If they could, they would have already.
I mean, I felt like this was Pacheco, that some of his best runs of the season were tonight. And once again, I mean, it's a far cry from what, Isaiah Pacheco was before the fibula injury.
So I got a bone to pick on that one.
Go for it.
It's not necessarily on the runs themselves. Look, he tried to be the fire starter on a couple runs, and he showed the will and he showed the mentality that you need, and was trying to show up in the prime time game because it's a contract year. And look, he did that on a handful of plays, and that's great, and that's what you want to see, and that's what they need more of. But then there's also some plays on that final drive that I'm going to nitpick here. And look, he had some good runs, and that's what the team needed. But then, he's getting up and flexing towards the opposing sidelines, and he's getting up and celebrating a little bit. And I'm like, you're down right now, man. And you're wasting 2 or 3 seconds each time you're posing when you guys need to go back to the huddle and get reset and get your mind reset because you're trying to win a football game here. And worrying about, I know that guy probably he's taking a lot of flack from whether it's media or fans or whatever. And I'm sure that's the chip on his shoulder that he's trying to use this year. And I'm all for it. But when I see little instances like that happen, it just kind of frustrates me sometimes to where I'm like, that's great. You made the play, but you need to reset so you can win this game, man. So you can make that next play that helps you get closer to the end zone and helps you win this football game. I don't need to see a flex. I mean, you've been there before. You've won Super Bowls. You got Super Bowl rings. Like that's just a routine play to try to get you to the next goal. So I don't know. That just kind of bugged me a little bit tonight, and I kind of wonder at other points in the locker room is that something else that's kind of happening from time to time where they're focusing on the success of that specific play versus like what the ultimate goal is of what they're trying to achieve sometimes.
Yeah, I want to take you to the end of the season. I want to transport to the end of the season, and let's imagine a scenario where the 4-1 Jacksonville Jaguars have continued on. Maybe they win their division. I mean, they're playing really well. I do think that the Colts are playing better football than they are, so they're probably the better team. But Jacksonville could certainly be a playoff team at this point. The three teams that the Chiefs have lost to at this point are 4-1 Jacksonville, leading their division, 4-1 Philadelphia, leading their division, 3-2 Chargers, leading their division, 11-4 overall of these teams. Let's say we're at the end of the season, Nick, but all three of these teams make the playoffs. Does that make you feel better in any way whatsoever about the Chiefs being 2-4 at this point?
2-3 right now.
2-3, excuse me. Sorry, I got too many fours there. 2-3.
It doesn't matter to me because like you either get into the playoffs and you've gotten fixed what you need to, or you've added pieces to the puzzle that you need to, and you're resetting at that point, or you missed the playoffs because you already lost those playoff teams early on in the season. So like I'm not saying the Chiefs won't make the playoffs and anything. They're putting themselves in such a spot where they're going to have to play a lot more perfect football down the road here. And their schedule is not exactly getting in easier than you'd expect.
Well, and that's the next conversation is up next week, Sunday Night Football. The 4-1 Detroit Lions coming to Kansas City. They've won 4 games in a row after dropping their season opener to Green Bay. 37-24 winners this week over Cincinnati. Lions look like they're rolling. They do have a key injury coming off this week. That we'll see how that affects them and what they have for next week. But I mean, how critical is it? I mean, how is there a difference for you for the Chiefs being 2-4 versus 3-3 with a win over the Lions?
I mean, tonight was the night that I felt I felt like with the way things had gone, if they were able to get to be 3-3 after the Lions game, I felt like they would have put themselves in a good spot. And if they could put themselves at 4-2, I would have thought they put themselves in a great spot. But right now, with them being 2-3, like this, Lions may not be quote unquote a must win, but boy, if you're at 2-4, man, you can only, out of the upcoming games between the Commanders, Bills, Broncos, Colts, we'll see where the Texans are at that point, and then we'll see where the Chargers are at that point, where the Broncos are at. And again, like you're just not giving yourself much wiggle room for the rest of the season to really have more than 2 losses if you do, in fact, lose to the Lions. But you're going to find out a ton about who your offensive line and defensive line are by how the Lions are going to come at you next week. Like you're going to find out a lot about them. Because they've got a dynamic duo there at running back between Gibbs and Montgomery. Jared Goff loves to play action pass, and they use the run game to build up the play action pass, and they get it out to Laporta. Then once he's in rhythm, then they use the shotgun to get to St. Brown, to get to Jameson Williams, and then feed it to Laporta again. So I mean, Jared Goff has all the weapons he needs to be able to effectively, have that offense humming the way that they want to. And he's arguably got one of the 5 best offensive lines in the league. And then from a defense perspective, Tyreek Williams, the guy that they got from Ohio State that I had mocked to the Chiefs, he's already doing really well. And then Aiden Hutchinson going up against more than likely Jawan Taylor. Like, I'm concerned about how many times is Jawan Taylor going to be lined up in the backfield, or how many times is he going to have some issues in his kick step because he's going up against Aiden Hutchinson. So like that's going to be the matchup that could decide a lot of things for how well that Chiefs offense can either get a fast start or sputter pretty quickly. So, and look, it's going to be the last game ideally without Rashee Rice. I mean, technically it will be, but you don't know when Rice will be up to 100% since he won't have played a game since August at that point. and where he's at on that front after 6 weeks. So I mean, they've got a lot stacked up against them, and there's just a certain way they're going to have to play here in the weeks ahead. But they've had a handful of games to where they've come up short in the way that they have to play to be able to win those type of games.
Well, and the Chiefs have a short week ahead of them, off on Tuesday, back at it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for practice, heading into that Sunday night showdown against the Lions. We've got a short week too, at least I do. Nick, I know you're not going to be able to join us for the Q&A on Tuesday night. We will be missed, but I'll be there, and you should all be there to, wish me happy birthday. So just so I don't feel lonely on my birthday. And then we'll see about Thursday night. Thursday night has become kind of maybe we can talk. Well, I know we can't talk Nick into joining us on Thursday. He's got too many other things going on. So
games on our air this week. I don't know.
We'll make a call later about the Thursday night Q&A. But then obviously next week's 41 is the Mike will be back in your stream, breaking down Chiefs and the Lions. Any final thoughts from you, Nick?
Yeah, I got plenty of them. More than anything, I mean, I'm going to start with the Chris Jones play, and then I'm going to work my way back. On the play that Chris Jones I know is going to relentlessly get criticized for on Tuesday, because I already saw it on Twitter tonight. The one where Trevor Lawrence falls on the ground and everything. The first thing people don't realize is Chris is the guy who pushes his defender back. And that's the guy who steps on Trevor Lawrence's foot. So, Chris already did his job from the start right there. And then as Charles Omenihu ends up getting hit by the left guard while he's engaged with the left tackle and falls to the ground, unfortunately, he doesn't get back up in time to be able to kind of corral and contain to where Lawrence doesn't necessarily have a lane to be able to decide where he's going to go. Then Tranquil shoots that gap inside where Chris was with the offensive lineman, and then Tranquil is starting to get a chance to be able to wrap him up, and he's going to hold on to him and drag him down and make him carry his weight. And then Tillery comes in, and it looks like Tillery knocks him off his path. So then he helps Lawrence break that tackle, and then he doesn't hold on to the tackle. And so then at that point, Lawrence breaks that. And then so when you're looking at this wide, you're seeing Chris Jones, and you're like, well, Chris isn't giving effort on this play. He already blew up the play at the start. And then he's assuming some of his teammates are going to do the job because he's been taking on double teams all game long and tearing all those up when he's given a lot of his defensive linemen chances to be able to make one-on-one plays, and they don't make them. So, I just don't know what else. I don't know what else you want from the guy sometimes. It's like the guy's doing most of the group project. And you're like, hey, you didn't do that last part of the group project. Come on. So I don't know. That one, I know he's going to get a lot of flack for that. And here's the other thing. And this is where I'm going to say, these players aren't robots. Chris has had a difficult, if you listen to the Thursday press conference, when he's talking about his aunt and how much she meant to him, the guy flew back from the day of the funeral to play in a football game. And played at a high level and did the best he could. I'm sorry, but there's for people that have lost a loved one, there's a grieving process, and so it's gonna hit you at different times in different waves. And he may at that moment he may have been physically and mentally exhausted from what he was doing and what and that dude had already given everything he had on on that football field. And sometimes you got to trust your teammates to do their job too. And so, he didn't have the angle. He wasn't going to get there unless he started and completely expected Lawrence to automatically take that way. You're reacting to what the play was after the fact instead of what it was in the moment. There isn't many people that expected Lawrence to get up, and there's not many people in that moment that thought he was going to go to the left, pop up, go to the left, and take off running. Chris didn't think that. I wouldn't have thought that I was in Chris's shoes. So I want to say at the end of the day, you're reacting to after the fact of what after the fact versus in the moment whenever that looked like that play was covered and kind of done and over with at that point. But then you're also forgetting that Chris also pushed the guard back that Lawrence tripped on to even give any of his teammates the opportunity at the start of that. So there's that, and then that Butker thing at the 40, the ball, the football went out of bounds. I mean, I know Dave Tope's going to be asked about it on Thursday, and if he's not, I'll ask about it. but I already know that's gonna be one of the top things the room's gonna ask about. And I'm just like, why would you put yourself in a spot to where that's even a possibility to let them start at the 40? That one just kind of, I don't know. That one just kind of makes me wonder. But I mean, at the end of the day, two things I want to say. They still need help at running back. And I'm telling you, like, unless you're going to start playing Elijah Mitchell and see what he can or can't do, he's the equivalent of a practice squad person at this point. That if somebody gets injured, then he goes in. That's the equivalent of what he is right now. And then you're gonna have to make a decision on the roster at receiver here in the next week if you're gonna have to waive Brownlee to put Rice back on the roster after this week, or if you have to do something else on the roster. And like they're gonna have to add to their pass rush. Not having Omar Norman Lott tonight was, that hurt them. But they're just not showing enough on that pass rush, and they're having to blitz so much, and they need their coverage to be right at various points to kind of mask how tough it is for the rest of their pass rush to win if Chris can't do the entire group project himself. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest.
You are always honest, Nick. That's the one thing we can always count on you. It is the unvarnished truth, and that's why we love you, man.
So those are most of the thoughts I had rattling around in my head. Well, I think I had all of them, Matt. I don't remember at this point.
Well, if there's any that you missed, you can still come in for like a pinch hit appearance on the Chiefs Digest Q&A on Tuesday.
Matt, I am not showing up for that. I will wish you happy birthday in a different ballpark, but I am not showing up for that Q&A.
No worries, my friend. We will see you next time. And everybody on here, we will see you after the Lions on Sunday night next week for 41 is the Mic.
You've been listening to 41 is the Mic, presented by KSHB 41, your home of the Chiefs and Chiefs Digest.